Hello everyone and welcome to Galaxy 89 Cars. Now I've got a bit of a different video format today. I've got a bit of a tradition of creating sort of an end of year Q&A, but I thought I'd do something a little bit different this year. Everything's been so crazy and unprecedented. Basically I thought I would do sort of a year in review to go through the content that I've already made, to go through sort of my channel and what's been happening with it, any sort of new events, and of course things that are going to be happening next year, which there is a lot of. So I mean, a new space that you've never sort of seen before. This is a sort of area I've designed, haven't fully finished painting, there's still some little marks back here. This is basically where I edit, so it's got all of my computer equipment over here, and of course it's where I do my voiceovers with my Rode mic here. If you see me looking down, basically because I'm just using my phone for reference. So this year, obviously, coronavirus has been a massive thing for everyone. It's sort of been unavoidable. And as a content creator, if you sort of do it in a sort of semi-professional way, you're sort of trying to run what you do as a small business. And I'm no exception to that rule. So obviously I work directly with the manufacturers that I film with, whether that be through their marketing or press, or just through sort of dealer managers going for dealerships. So for someone like me who at the time didn't have sort of my own car to film with or fleet of cars to film with, COVID was especially damaging because it meant that I couldn't access the dealerships that I usually go to, or the PR cars, for example. So I'll go through the actual timeline of sort of my channel and everything. And this is not going to be a sob story or anything like that. Basically, it's just sort of talking about this year a bit more, because essentially this year I've only made about 30% of the content I would usually make. And I love making YouTube videos, I love cars. So it's basically, so going into that a little bit more, some of my thought processes, hopefully it'll be an insightful video. So the year kicked off, actually I'm going to start with December, because I actually managed to tick off a box. So in December 2019, I managed to film a GT4, the new 718 variant. I think I've already spoken about this before, but the GT4 for me is the absolute sort of pinnacle of real-world performance car driving, because you have a great powertrain. The sound isn't quite as good anymore because it's a bit muffled because of the particulate filter, but you've still got great induction noise on the 718. But a lot of people complain about the long gearing as well. But it's just the fact that it's fairly lightweight. It's a Porsche GT car, so it's a solid product. Build quality is amazing, and it's just, you feel the stability of the car and its amazing chassis, and like I said, even though it's a bit muffled, the powertrain's incredible. Manual gearbox, of course, really short shifting, short throws, and the auto blip function. It's just a fantastic package, and I sort of dreamt about being able to test the 981 GT4, but of course it was a little bit before my sort of time, so in terms of my YouTube channel, but it was epic to be able to film that car. Didn't really get to explore the full potential of it because of the conditions, but nonetheless, amazing opportunity. But of course, going into this year, we were sort of hearing more about COVID in different countries out in Asia. But in all honesty, maybe it's just through naivety, and probably because nothing like that has ever happened before, I really didn't believe it was going to affect the UK very much. I thought it might spread a little bit, but it wouldn't certainly be the huge thing that it became. So I sort of tried to carry on as normal. So I started off with Jaguar, with the 2019 F-Pace. That video actually caused a little bit of confusion because it's a 2020 car, but it's a model year 2019 car. So people thought it was a brand new model. I'm getting a bit confused, so I had to sort of adjust the title on that. But it's done well. I mean, it's got over 50,000 views, just under a year. And for the sort of size of creator that I am, I'm pretty happy with that. And then I worked with Bramley. They're an awesome little privately owned dealer. Amazing aesthetic and quality and attention to detail. At their showroom, it's just like an old sort of country manor house, sort of farmhouse in a little beautiful village. And they've got some exquisite cars in there. And I filmed the new Toyota, and it's sort of the A90 launch edition. Interesting car. It's, very mixed reviews. A lot of people pretty unhappy and disappointed with it, and I can certainly see why. But after that, I went back to Jaguar and filmed an SVR Roadster, epic car, amazing soundtrack, which I'm pretty sure I did show in the video. Unfortunately, I didn't get to drive it. It was just a static in-depth video. But nonetheless, I think that was a pretty interesting video, and the colour on that car is amazing. I actually think it's sold now. I think it might have taken a little while. From there, I went on a massive drive, and on this next one, I actually had to make 2 trips. So it's the Lamborghini Hurricane Evo video. And it's my highest performing video of the year. Currently has 188,000 views, just under 200,000 views, so it's done pretty well. But I was so focused on getting shots and different things, and just trying to get the video out, that basically I forgot to get the exhaust sound clip. And for the type of videos that I make, you know, with the backing music and my voiceovers, I think it's actually quite important for me to be able to offer that departure from, you know, me talking and the music, and offer the real emotional content of the car. So I really wanted that, so I had to go back to get that. And it's like a 2-hour round trip. And I've spoken to people in Russia and the US, in really, really huge countries, and they're like, oh, 2 hours is nothing. But for someone in the UK, just to get an exhaust sound clip, 2 hours is actually quite a long drive. So yeah, you probably didn't know that, but I'm glad I did, because it's ended up being such a popular video. Then from there, I think we sort of began to hear more rumblings of COVID spreading. I still, at this point, really didn't think it was going to be as massive as it has turned out to be. So I didn't really plan much ahead, which obviously in retrospect was a huge mistake. But I went to Mercedes, dealer I've worked with many times before, Mercedes-Benz in Ascot, and I filmed the new EQC, Mercedes-Benz first all-electric production car, as far as I'm aware. That was a pretty good insight. I got to drive that as well. Unfortunately, I only had it for an afternoon, so trying to find a location, make sure it was dry, because the weather was really terrible, as I'm sure if you've watched the video you can tell by the state of the car, because it was really, really muddy. But yeah, interesting car. Obviously the build quality is probably far superior to Tesla. There's no hiding that. I think Tesla's more of a fun product in a way, but you probably have, you know, potentially more of a psychological reliability element to it with that. Video did pretty well, just under 50,000 views, so I'm obviously very happy with that. Looking forward to working with Mercedes-Benz Ascot again once all this calms down. You know, there's a lot of Mercedes-Benz cars that I like to film, and I'll go into those a bit later. Then I've got 2 Aston Martin videos, one after the other. So I've been lucky enough to film both coupe and roadster variants of the Vantage V600, the newest version. There are only about 14 of those in the world. So the fact I filmed 2 is pretty good. And it's actually probably the only reason I really put it on my channel, because usually what happens is if I film a coupe edition of a car first, for example, I find it hard to justify doing an entire in-depth video, because it's a massive process. I mean, it's probably about 12 hours altogether to create one of these videos. And it's a lot of work, considering everything else I've got going on. So if I'm going to film a video, I need to have sort of a justification for it and hope that it's going to do well. But with those V600s, they're so rare, and obviously each spec is pretty individual. So I thought, you know what, such a rare car, individual spec, so I'll have a little look at that. Then went on to the Aston Martin Vanquish Zagato shooting brake. Obviously quite a few variants of the Vanquish, and the shooting brake is probably my favourite. The coupe is nice as well, Speedster, they're all great, but I think the shooting brake, people have really been drawn to that body style in the last couple of years at least. I think they're fantastic cars, and I really appreciate HWM Aston Martin letting me do that. With this, I was booked in to film it, and then lots of different things happened, so that got cancelled, and I had to rebook in and then do it all over again, basically. Well, shoot it for the first time, I mean, but do the appointment all over again. That was fine. And after that, I've only got 2 videos basically before the first lockdown in the UK, and that happened on the 23rd of March. These videos came out just before that, so it was the 2020, the C Zinger 21C. That was an amazing event. I got in touch with the PR department, and they invited me down to the sort of unveiling. It was meant to take part, it was meant to be unveiled at the Geneva Motor Show. Unfortunately, that got cancelled. So basically, they brought the car over to the UK to sort of a private, very small, intimate event. Lots of other sort of social media people there. Actually, a cool opportunity to meet some people too. And yeah, just film this crazy car that has this amazing engine, a really great story. Yeah, and I think that was one of the last proper trips I did until I went into London again for the Mustang video, the Shelby GT500. We were already in sort of a partial lockdown at that point, and the sort of main lockdown was coming, so I was like, all right, I've got to get at least one more video filmed in that time. And I worked with another company called Clive Sutton, first time I've ever worked with them. Really great guys. They took me out in both cars, this and the one with the circuit pack or the club pack, one of those. Massive difference in ride quality and exterior. Insane vehicles. And yeah, they actually really turned heads. You see a lot of supercars in London, but you don't often see that many like crazy new super high-end muscle cars like this. They're a bit of a rarity. And the crazy rumble that they create, obviously, draws a lot of attention, and the big sort of bonnet scoop and the sort of muscular arches. So that was probably the second most popular video of the year. It's just under 70,000 views, 68,000 views. Really happy with that. Then, of course, we all got shut down. The country, the UK at least, got put into a lockdown. So I basically went from the 23rd of March until sometime in June, if not July, basically scratching my head left without content because naively I hadn't prepared, I hadn't archived loads of videos. So I screwed myself over a little bit. And yeah, I think the saving grace of this was that people were stuck inside, so more YouTube content was being watched. So my channel didn't fall away too much because of that. But yeah, it wasn't a fun time. Obviously, I couldn't access, as I sort of alluded to, I couldn't access any of the dealerships or my partners that I'd usually access. So yeah, I was basically just stuck without content. So it came a phase where I was having to ask you guys, everyone watching, for basically content ideas to sort of brainstorm on my own about, okay, how can I still produce content that's going to be worth creating, that will have some value to it and be worth watching. But obviously it can't be an in-depth tour because I can't access companies and I don't have my own car to film with. So we had the From C6 to Jesko, and then we sort of had that was like an in-depth evolution. Using all of my own footage, because obviously I filmed with Supervatura a lot. They're the UK's Koenigsegg dealer, so I had all my sort of old footage with that. So I was lucky enough to have all of my content from all of the work that I've done from Supervatura. And I just put it all together. I thought that, I've done in-depth tours of the individual cars. Why not do an in-depth tour, sort of use my footage and show the design evolution of Koenigsegg as much as possible, the exterior and interior, and actually in terms of the powertrain and suspension, sort of the main details. See, that was an interesting thing. I didn't expect it to do very well, but it was just an attempt to try something new. Then I asked people if they would be interested in me doing their cars, because at that point I think we could meet one person outside. The COVID regulations changed. We could now meet one person outside, so I thought, all right, I've got over 30,000 followers. Let's see if any of them will be happy for me to film a performance car or whatever they might have. And one person who actually lives quite near to me, was very, very generous, and he filmed his performance motorbike. Now, of course, this is a car channel, but it was so generous of the owner to do that, and it was a really interesting motorbike. And I thought, you know what, let's give it a chance, and the video was actually done really well. So I was glad that I went ahead with that. A lot of people have suggested that I do motorbike tours. It's something that I'm still rolling around. Obviously, I created the hotels channel as well because I'm really, really into sort of luxury hotels and things. That sort of element of hospitality, but everything's been so crazy at the moment. You can't really access hotels that easily. So we'll see. And motorbikes, I don't think there's quite as much to them as with cars. Obviously, there's no interior. There's obviously, there's a lot to talk about with motorbikes, but it's not something that I'm hugely passionate about. But still, the audience is there, so we will see. Now, the last sort of lockdown video I made was a similar kind of thing to the Koenigsegg one, but it was with Ferrari. So I've been able to film Ferraris, I think it's called the Big Five, so the 288 GTO, F40, F50, Enzo, and the LaFerrari. At that point, I hadn't filmed the LaFerrari, so I couldn't do the sort of Ferrari evolution like I did with Koenigsegg. But I thought it would be interesting to look at the differences between the F40 and 50, because they came, fairly close together, but they're massively different cars, despite having a similar kind of layout. Obviously, different engine completely. A lot of other differences as well. But in terms of their form, big wing at the rear, fairly sort of wedgy manual gearbox. Of course, that was usual for the time anyway. But I just thought it would be interesting to explore those, because they're legends. Then sort of lockdown lifted a bit, so I was able to get back filming again. So I went down to VVS to film the second video I filmed with them, the 600 LT. And this is a car I'm particularly interested in. Obviously can't afford it, I'm not going to pretend that I can. But it's just an interesting, small little sports car. And anytime I get to film with a McLaren, I feel it's a special opportunity because I just find that interesting cars. They have their own thing. They're trying to build in this sort of luxury GT, sort of high performance GT kind of element added with incredibly high performance. So yeah, it's an interesting concept, and I enjoy filming with those quite a lot. Then I went to Joe Macari, a dealership sort of world renowned. Some of the most intense, most expensive cars you can imagine are there. And I filmed the 1988 Porsche 959 Sport, incredibly rare car, a legend sort of in the same category as the F40 and the F50. That video for some reason hasn't done anywhere near as well as I was expecting. I thought it would do really well, but it hasn't. It's interesting how, videos, you try and predict performance, and on that one, I was clearly very wrong. Then I went to Scuderia Prestige. This is, building up to the sort of end of summer. We're talking about August now. First time I filmed with them, and I did the Porsche Taycan 4S. Another video I thought that was going to be a huge success, but has only just under 10,000 views. Still not bad, but not what I wanted. But the sort of more important thing potentially is that I got to get my own personal hands on the Taycan for a little bit, sort of explore it in detail. Porsche, well, a brand like Porsche, so focused on performance and the sort of emotional content of driving, creating an electrical vehicle, a vehicle type that's so often thought of as not, being soulless, is an important event. So it's one, and Porsche, being basically my favorite car manufacturer, is it's an important one for me as well. And build quality is absolutely incredible. Didn't get to explore the range or anything, but it looked amazing. And then from there, I actually managed to film a LaFerrari. Went back to Joe Macari. Two pretty amazing videos, back to back from Joe Macari, obviously the 959 and the LaFerrari. So completing my in-depth tours of Ferrari's Big Five. Actually it was a LaFerrari Aperta, so one of 210 cars. Another video I thought was going to be a massive hit, because I'm pretty sure it's the only really in-depth video of a LaFerrari Aperta. Obviously not a new car, but also didn't perform as well as I was hoping it would. Nonetheless, epic experience to be able to, go, through the outside and inside of such a rare and expensive car. At this point, I actually was sort of forced to stop doing YouTube full time. So from about June 2018 until about June 2020 this year, I was doing YouTube as my full-time job. I was loving it, creating so many videos a year, managing to go to events. Unfortunately, we missed out on a few. I'll go over those a bit later. But trying to create as much content as possible, trying to build my quality, production quality, listen to your feedback. But unfortunately, COVID just meant that I was forced into a position where I had to work. So that's the main explanation why sort of from the summer, my content output has gone down a lot. And of course, there have been other lockdowns, other changes in the regulations that have meant that I simply can't really create content So it hasn't been a fantastic year from that perspective. But so basically the last video I managed to film before that was going back to Scuderia Prestige and filming the brand new JCW GP Mini. Crazy little car, amazing exhaust system, very, very expensive, I think, overall. I mean, they're rare, they're limited edition, there's still 3,000 of them and they're £42,000 at the time. For me, that just seems a little bit steep. I'm sure there are huge fans and probably even a cult following of that type of car. For me, it's not really my thing, but I can certainly appreciate it. And if I saw one out and about, I probably would take a picture and add it to my Instagram account, because they're just cool, you know, little things that you don't see often. Then I decided to buy a car. First car I featured on the channel for 2, if not 3 years, the Z4 3-litre SI Sport Coupe. I basically wanted a quicker and easier way to access content. Getting in-depth tours with the job and lockdowns and everything was proving too difficult. So I just thought, okay, I'll get a car, probably a fairly cost-effective one, but hopefully one that's going to create a lot of interest, has a bit of a cult following, etc. And there's actually a lot of interesting statistics with the Z4. And I'm looking forward to going through it all in more detail with you at a later date. But I'll also go through all the content I have with that so far and what I want to do. So I filmed that, the collection, obviously the day that I got it. And then I did the engine manifolds and the wheels. I still have lots of content, but like I said, I'll discuss those a bit later. It was great to work with HWM on a different video type, and obviously with Guy, the managing director, go through all of their history. Super interesting if you're a real car fan. And to work with a car brand that's been, you know, operating since the 1950s, always a pleasure. And then of course working with My Alloys on the wheels, they did an absolutely incredible job, and their process, you know, they're really not some sort of, you know, 2-bit operation. They've got a crazy facility, all the right equipment, as you've seen if you've seen the video. And yeah, they totally transformed my wheels from like rusted and corroded into like, you know, sparkling and almost brand new looking. Really, really good. Months before that, I filmed the Ford GT. Of course, that went out. Awesome to get my hands on an opportunity to film with that. And then more recently, the Taycan Turbo S from EV Hire, managing to drive that for about a day. I picked it up in the evening before the day I filmed, straight after work basically. And I just had, you know, from 8 AM, because here around sort of London area, it's getting light, 8:30, getting dark around 3 PM, 4 PM, so you don't have a huge window to film with. So I basically just filmed that entire period. And whenever you create videos that are, you know, 18 minutes long or something, you may not realize that someone's been filming for 9 hours to get that footage. But in it, I drove, like I said, over 100 miles, you know, went, you know, lots of different areas. And yeah, great insight for me as well. If I had the money, would I get a Taycan over a Tesla? I really don't know, because you have to think, you know, if you're getting a Turbo S, significantly more money than a comparable Tesla, massive improvements in build quality, aesthetic is amazing on the Taycan. There's something that affects me about Porsches, the lines and everything. Maybe I would upgrade to a Porsche Taycan Turbo S after I ran a Tesla for a little bit, because I would like to support Elon, because I'm a big fan of his. And then of course the most recent video I've uploaded was the 2021 Rolls-Royce Ghost in-depth video. Hoping that video does well, but you know, sort of either way, it's an amazing opportunity to be able to go and film to Goodwood. It's about an hour south from me, drive. And just the facility and everything. If you follow me on Instagram, which I suggest you do, all of my links are in the bio of the video, because you go through and you have this amazing courtyard and all of the trees are shaped into cubes. And then you go through this grand entrance and you sign in, you get your Rolls-Royce guest pass and everything. So yeah, amazing experience. So even if the video doesn't do well, of course I want it to, and I hope you enjoyed it, but nonetheless, awesome experience. So now I'm going to talk a bit more about the sort of things I wanted to do and wasn't able to. So the two main things are the Goodwood Geneva Motor Show, getting confused, the Geneva Motor Show, that was meant to be in March, everyone was waiting until the very last minute with that. But it got cancelled, unfortunately, and then the sort of organisers announced that they're probably not going to be holding them for the next few years. So I'm very glad that I managed to get press access and go last year. It was my first one, maybe even my only one, but at least I can tick that box off. Yeah, that's a massive shame for people. And of course, new companies like Zinger that wanted to release their car and had to go for a far more intimate occasion instead. Then of course, my favourite car event of the year, the Goodwood Festival of Speed, got cancelled. They held a slightly more close-knit one, I think it was last month. Literally extremely limited amount of people. Nonetheless, I'm sure they had a good time because they're great hosts. But it was a shame that they didn't hold the event. Obviously, I can totally understand why they didn't. But it's always a great event for content and just to be there. The atmosphere is absolutely incredible. So if you haven't gone, I advise you try to go in the future. The only event I went to this year, as far as I can recollect, was Salon Privé. I was actually meant to do a lot of work for Salon Privé this year as well, sort of be more a part of their team, but yeah, that didn't materialise, unfortunately, for various reasons. But nonetheless, I still went to the event. It's great fun. It's just great to get out, see car enthusiasts, see a really beautiful place, Blenheim Palace. So that was great. But I wanted to film more cars, of course. I wanted to film the A45S. I wanted to film, I think, the new Corvette, the mid-engine Corvette. The new AMG GT-R Pro I wanted to film. The new Range Rover. Various different Porsches, for example, the 992 Turbo. So there's a lot of things. This is just a very small list. And in terms of the Z4, I wanted to film a detailing video and and get the calipers refurbed and lots of different things. But because of successive lockdowns, it made all of this absolutely impossible. So they're still on my list for next year. Okay, so I've discussed this year, but what about 2021? Well, maybe naively again, I have a lot of plans for next year, but I think that's really the only way you can go about things. You have to make plans, you have to prepare, you have to think about moving forward and adjusting to the circumstances. So in terms of the core content, my in-depth videos, I've got 2 stored, archived, that I actually need to start working on. I've got the 488 Pista Spider video, which I'm going to be cracking on with. That will probably be potentially the next in-depth video that goes out. Then I've got the Cupra Ateca that I've been sitting on for ages and I need to get out immediately. Sorry Letchworth Cupra for not getting out earlier. But this year has been very hard, as I'm sure you can understand. In terms of things I want to film, all of the list I've just made, basically the GT-R Pro, the Black Series, if it comes out, and if I can get my hands on one. What else? GT4 RS, if it comes out, if I can get my hands on one of those. The Land Rover Defender, the new F-Type would be pretty cool as well. A45S I still want to film. There's lots of different stuff. The new S-Class would be interesting too. And the SF90 Stradale, I think, would be a good car to have on my channel. I think the next one I'm going to film, hopefully, is going to be the Yaris GR. So I had that booked in for last week to film, last Tuesday, but of course the UK my area went into a tier 4 lockdown, which meant I couldn't film it. I have spoken with Toyota and they're happy for me to reschedule, so I think I'm doing 2 videos with the new GR Yaris, so it'll be an in-depth video and a sort of real-world review as well. So really looking forward to that. Looks like an epic little car, amazing reviews, so really excited. In terms of the Z4, of course I've got loads of content planned with that. So like I said, I want to get it fully detailed, working with my guys TK Detailing. Hopefully we can figure something out. It's been really difficult because of all the lockdowns and things that are going on, but the car hasn't been detailed properly in years. And if you look at it up close, I haven't really shown it properly, but if you look at it up close, the paint it needs some work, and of course been driving around in wintry conditions, so that's made it worse. So I think the result from that video is going to be amazing. And yeah, a lot of people get brand new cars and get them detailed, and of course there's a sort of before and after, but I'm hoping this is going to be more of like a sort of an Ammo NYC first detail in 5 to 10 years or whatever, where you really get to see a huge transformation. So looking forward to that. Also want to get the calipers sorted out, maybe the interior as well, create some videos of it. Why did I buy it, for example? You know, discussing the actual reasons why I bought that car, maybe some running costs. Also toying with the idea of potentially buying another car to join or replace it. I'm not 100% yet, we will see. But the big thing for next year, two big things I suppose. One, events will hopefully be back, so hopefully I'll be able to bring you some good Festival of Speed content again, fingers crossed. And the other thing is that I've maybe naively booked and paid for a massive road trip all around Europe. So I'm going to be filming the entire thing. I'm going to be going through France, Monaco, Italy, Switzerland, and of course the UK. And yeah, I wanted to bring you something different. So next year, it's sort of, I'm going all out. You know, maybe I'll have my Z4, maybe I'll have a different car. Either way, the road trip is in place, and unless it gets cancelled, which I really hope it doesn't, I'll be bringing you those videos. It was arranged around Top Marks, an event I've been to once before in 2015, but like everything else, it's been cancelled, rearranged, moved. It was booked in for April or May, I think, then got pushed back to June, and now has been pushed back all the way until September. Unfortunately, I can't arrange a £2,000 road trip around that. I didn't anticipate that they were going to move the event. You know, it's the beginning of June, so I'm hoping we'll get some freedom by then. But yeah, either way, if I can go on the road trip and it's all legal and everything, then I will. So yeah, I think that's going to be an incredible video, maybe even series of videos, and I'll see if I can get some little, you know, stops on the way. But please do make sure that you follow my Instagram account, because that way you can follow what I'm doing in sort of real time. You know, I put stories up, sort of things that have happened in the past, things that are happening right in the moment as I'm filming them, and of course talking more about, you know, future plans that I have, so please do that. So yeah, that's it. Of course, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it enjoyable, insightful, and please subscribe for the latest content. Thanks.